when you start growing your email list, the absolutely next thing you can do is put together an offer. And it could be a simple offer. I'm going to coach 5 people one-on-one for 3 months, first come, first serve. I'm going to do group coaching. I'm going to put together a mini digital course or a membership or a mastermind, whatever it might be. Putting together your first offer is a really important step because it puts you on the map as their go-to source. And you've been offering value for 3 months, 6 months, however long. So you've really earned the right to say, okay, here's the next step. And there's no reason why everything you should do is for free. We are not growing hobbies over here. This is our livelihood. So you really have to step into that and say, of course I deserve to get paid for this. So you start to think, how can I add value? How can I take people to the next level? How can I get a transformation for them? And you put together your offer and keep it as simple as you can, because believe me, you're gonna wanna change it down the road.
Hey, welcome back to the Awe Shift podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Trucks. And again, we have an amazing human being, and we're always going to find out how successful people make shift happen. If you remove the F, you know what that means. And this person has done that in many ways. They've been a kind of like a leader in the online space in marketing for a long period of time. I've known about them for so many years, always good things. They've been in the marketing world for 14 plus years. They've worked with some of the biggest names in the world, including like Tony Robbins in terms of like helping create content. So this person is a brain. But here's the cool thing. They're also an amazing heart. This is my first time interacting directly with this person. However, we've always been like 1 degree away. And everything I've heard has always been amazing about the human's heart and how they show up and what they do. And so today I hope to get some extraction of both those areas, both ways you can improve your life, maybe your business, but also how you can possibly improve your life through things that she's navigated, because you don't get to that level of success without having a lot of crazy things happen that you have to navigate and learn to be better. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Amy Porterfield.
Well, hey there. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. I know you're very busy. I'm going to be honest. I was told you say no a lot. So my team said you said yes. They were like, holy crap, you said yes. I'm like, holy crap, you said yeah.
I didn't know that was being said around. That's kind of embarrassing. But you were an absolute yes. And I'm so happy to be here. And could you have a more perfect podcast voice? The answer is no. I could listen to you all day long.
I appreciate that. I don't know where it came from. My wife, when I tell her people say that, she laughs at me. She's like, I don't even want to hear it half the time. I'm like, yeah, well, you've been around 20 years, so I get it.
Same with my husband. He would say the same thing. I hear you.
It's the gift and the curse. I'm fine with it though. We make it work. But no, I think the no is a good thing. I hear when I hear that. I hear someone that understands how to set and keep boundaries. And I think some people don't do that well to begin with. And I think it creates havoc and chaos because they're saying yes and they should have said no. And then they have to renege from some things. And so I appreciate that part of being able to say no. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to pop in. I have one question I start with, then I'm going to talk much less because I really want to have you talk more. This is about you today. And here's the question. I'm walking around town. I sit down at a coffee shop. I sit next to you. I don't know who you are. And for some reason, you turn and start talking to me. Why should I listen to you?
Ooh, good question. You should listen to me because if you ever have thought about starting an online business and you want to hear it from someone who will share all the good, bad, and ugly, I'm going to give it to you straight. And I feel as though I don't hold back in that respect. So if you're looking for honesty and you want to know how it really looks like or what it really looks like, I'm your girl.
I like it. Well, now that's one of the things that people don't always do, though. Like, where did you get that strength in that? Because I know, man, it's taken me years to get to the point of saying, like, when I tell you this thing, it's tough love, but it's not actually tough love, it's real love. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't tell you what you needed to hear. Was that always something like you grew up having, or was it developed in a time frame?
Absolutely not. In fact, when I left corporate, so I always say I'm an ex-corporate girl turned accidental entrepreneur because I never really thought I would not be in corporate. Climbing that corporate ladder, I was like all about it. And so when I came out to be an entrepreneur, I never shared the challenges, the pain points, or really my personal life. And I felt like I came from a professional setting. So I should be professional. I should look professional. No one wants to know about my husband, Hobie, or my dog, Scout, or all the challenges I'm having behind the scenes. They just want the good stuff, like teach them what they want to know. And then I realized I don't have a real connection with my audience. They absolutely do not know me. So there was one podcast that I did many, many years ago. I think it was like 8 minutes long. It was the shortest podcast I've ever done.
Oh, wow.
And I shared one of my deepest, darkest secrets. That's not really a secret because you can see me, but I shared that I'm very uncomfortable doing video. Remember, this is years ago, but very
Okay.
uncomfortable
I was
doing
gonna say, you
video.
seem to be fine now.
But because of my weight, because of how I look, and
okay.
my weight has fluctuated up and down. I've struggled ever since I've been really young. And so at the time I was heavier and I didn't want to show myself on video. So I shared this with my audience and I said, this is my struggle. This is why I don't do as much video as I want to do. And this is something I want to share with you just to get off my chest and just move forward and love myself more. And now when I meet people in real life, they'll say, I love your podcast, my favorite episode. And I'm thinking it's the webinar one, right? Or the digital course one, or when I talk about list building. Never. It's the episode you did about your weight. And I thought, oh my gosh, people just want that human connection and they want to know they're not alone in their struggles. That was my first big lesson, to let people in.
Yeah, that's big. It's funny. So the last episode, you kind of came at the end of the last episode, just so you guys know, we record these sometimes back to back. All the magic is gone. But I talked about that, how like I had moments where I didn't let it out, but as soon as you do, because people feel very alone in this world. And when you don't actually let them know you experience the same thing, they sometimes don't even buy into what you're saying until that takes place. Yes. When you had to record this episode, was it tough to record? Was it tough to post? Like, what was that like initial immediacy, like in moments you had of going through the journey of that?
There were so many moments that I thought, I'm not posting this. I remember reaching out to one of my good friends, Jasmine Starr, and I reached out and I said, I think I'm going to post this. I wrote a little script about what I want to say in the podcast. Will you read it and to see if it's okay? And she's like, you are not being honest enough. You need to share when you emotionally eat and why you emotionally eat and what that looks like. She's like, tell that story about how you ate all your little boy's cupcakes after his birthday. And then he asked where the cupcakes were and you had eaten them because you had gotten stressed over something. I'm like, I'm not sharing that stuff. And she said, then Amy, don't share. Either share your truth or don't sugarcoat a story that is near and dear to your heart. So there were many times that I thought, I'm not posting that or I'm not saying that. But when she said, you have to, if you're going to tell the truth, really tell the truth. And so when I did, I was very, very scared. And at the same time, I did feel like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. I needed to say something that I knew it wasn't a secret. People could see me, but maybe they didn't know I was very self-conscious about all of that. So it felt like, here you go. I said it and now I'm moving on. And that was the start of starting to love myself more because there was acceptance that came with it.
That's beautiful. It reminds me of the Eminem like moments. You ever seen like 8 Mile, the movie?
Yes.
Yeah, where he's like, what about if he says about your girlfriend, you shot yourself in the foot? He goes, and he looks, and the whole intro is like everything out. Well, now what are you going to say about me? Like, it's all out there now. And it's
exactly, that's exactly it.
Different dynamic there. And so you do that, and you go into the world and share things. So I don't want to slow play. I don't want to dig right in as best we can. Can you close the gap between this person who is deciding to go corporate? I'm online. I share this video. I get to the heart of me, and becoming an individual works like Harley Davidson. Like, how did this journey take place? Because that for me is the coolest thing, especially when I hear that you start in that emotional space. Because there's got to be multiple levels of emotion and hardship and effort you had to build into to get yourself to the place you're at now.
Absolutely. And I've struggled with my doubts and my fears pretty much every step of the way. I kind of hate to admit that, but it's true. So I worked in corporate, like you said. I worked for Harley Davidson at the dealership levels in marketing. And then I moved over to work with peak performance coach Tony Robbins. And that was amazing. So it was almost 7 years. I was the director of content. I got to travel the world with Tony and work on the content that he did on stage, like Unleash the Power Within and Date with Destiny. It was incredible. But here's what happened. One day, Tony brought a bunch of internet marketers into the San Diego office. This is very humbling. I was asked to come in to take notes. I wasn't even sitting at the main table. So here I am at a side table. They're at this big oak table, and he goes around because he wanted to learn more. He's getting into the online marketing space more and more. So he wanted to hear about these guys' businesses. They were all men, and he went around one by one and he said, tell me about your business. And they started to talk about their business. They started to talk about their lifestyle, the products they had, their digital courses they sold, the businesses and what they look like. And we're talking from online dating to investing to real estate. There's all these different niches at the table. And all I heard was freedom. These guys were talking about the fact that they were their own boss. They were calling the shots. They were doing what they loved. And for the first time in my life, I thought, I am absolutely not free. I have been working for somebody else since the day I got my first job, and I'm on somebody else's time building somebody else's dream, and I have none of the freedom they were talking about. I didn't really realize what they were doing or understand it, but I thought, I want a piece of it. And I sure as heck didn't see any women at the table, but I thought, I'm sure there's women doing this. And so from that point on, I was like a dog with a bone, like, let me figure this out. It was a good year before I took the leap and actually went out on my own and started my own online business, where at the time it was doing social media for small businesses. I hated it. I literally left Tony Robbins and built a business I hated.
Really?
But over the years, I was able to transform it into something I love.
I gotcha. It's funny you say that because I didn't hear, like, I wasn't going to assume I hated it. I'm like, oh,
Hated it.
I guess it wasn't creating the freedom also. How did you navigate? Did you all of a sudden quit that job and then build this? Were you doing it side by side? Like, what was that transitional journey to kind of being on your own?
I'm a really big fan of the side hustle, and I didn't create a really big long-term side hustle, but I got a few clients while I was still working at Robbins, working mornings and nights and weekends. So I started to work with a few clients doing their social media. And so I had a few clients when I left, but it was like a big leap of faith. I remember the last day I worked for Robbins, I was pulling out of the San Diego office, and the song by the Beatles, Here Comes the Sun, came on the radio.
Oh, really?
And I thought, this is a sign. God is telling me that I'm going to make it. Here we go. It's going to be amazing. Yeah. And then I started my business. Like the very next day, I started to find new clients and build up the business. And for 2 years, I did service-based work. What I hated about it is I'm not that great working one-on-one with people. At the time, you mentioned, you gave me a nice compliment in the beginning that I could set boundaries. Oh, I had no boundaries in the beginning.
Yeah.
So I said yes to everything, right? I said yes to everything. And so I started to resent the clients that I had because I couldn't keep up with their demands. So I joke, instead of having one big boss, literally, Tony's a big guy, I had like 8 or 10 mini bosses calling me at all hours, bossing me around. I didn't have the freedom that I thought I would have. And that was the problem with the business I had created.
Yeah, that's tough. And I think what I like the most about it is the fact that you did not stop the process because you didn't like it. Because we obviously are here now, and I'm sure somebody has done that and go, oh, I hate this. Let me go get a regular job again. So knowing that you didn't like it, what gave you hope that changing something might create what you would love?
So I'm really big on getting clear on why you want something. What do you want and why do you want it? And so in that, before I left Robbins, I knew I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to work when I wanted to work, where I wanted to work, and how I wanted to work. And so that was very clear to me. So when I went out and built this business that I absolutely hated, instead of saying, Tony, please let me have my job back, which there were days I worried that would happen. Instead, I thought, I've got to figure out another way because I want that freedom so bad. So getting really clear about what you want means the world. Now, I often tell my students that my why was very selfish in the beginning. It was all about me. I didn't want a boss. I didn't want to have to answer to somebody else. And that was fine. It literally got me out the door and got me started. Now, fast forward 13 years later, and I wake up every morning thinking about the woman in the cubicle who doesn't realize there's a whole other world waiting for her, but she's miserable and she wants her own thing. My mission is that she finds me and I find her. But it wasn't like that in the beginning. And I just think, just be honest about your why so that it can move you forward to where you want to go.
It's beautiful. Yeah, because I think I can attest to that myself. And there's time like the allure of, I got done with the NFL and I wanted to do my own thing. It's like, I just want it for me. But after a while you go, man, if I really just settle into the heart of the humans around me, that stuff takes care of itself. Like it generally just kind of becomes this natural flow to where what was hard before, it's like effortless and it feels vastly different. Now, I look back at my past, and I'm sure a lot of people, I know that you weren't alone in this journey, right? You had a partner with you, a husband with you. How did you navigate that situation of like you doing this whole new thing? Did they buy into it early on? Was it a journey to get them to buy in? I'm sure obviously it's on board now 100%, but what was that initial entry point? Because for some people, the thought is like, I can't do this. I got a wife, a husband, I got kids. That's not right. That sounds great, Amy, but I can't step in that direction.
So many of my students deal with this. Like my spouse is not on board. They just want it to be a hobby, but they sure as heck don't want me to go full force. Yeah. Fortunately, that wasn't my situation. So Hobie is my husband. He was a firefighter at the time, and he was all for it. He's like, he saw that I hardly saw him in our first year of marriage because I was on the road so much. So he values quality time more than anything else. So he just wanted time with me, and I wasn't around. So he was like all for it. But the secret behind the scenes is I got into my own business, and now I became obsessed with it. It was my baby. Like, it was everything. And about 3 or 4 years into it, he sat me down and he said, I don't even see you anymore. You are never focused or present. Like, you are so obsessed with growing this business that I feel like you've lost touch with me. Yeah. And my marriage is my everything. And so that was a huge wake up call for me. It scared me, and I had to start changing my ways. But he was totally supportive.
I like that, man. I appreciate Hobie's ability to communicate. I don't know if you know my story, but like my wife and I, something to say, I was always gone, and she, had an affair and stepped out. And in hindsight, I'm like, if you just told me, sat me down, right? We're now remarried, long journey, beautiful marriage now. I would go through
beautiful story
17 times over to have what we have right now. But I respect is able to come and have a conversation. Also, that you're able to hear that. Because some people will hear that and go, oh, you don't get it. You just don't get me. And then we cut ties. But you're like, okay. So what were the navigational adjustments you made at that mark that has created the journey you guys are on now?
So when I started in the online space, there were many, many men that taught how to do marketing. There weren't that many women. Men and women tend to be different in their marketing. Not always, but a lot of the time. So the men have this hustle mentality. They're like, go, go, go. You work nights, you work weekends, you make it happen no matter what. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So I was a ultimate hustler in those early years, which got me to the point where my husband had to sit me down. So when he did, I thought, okay, I gotta look at this so differently. So I started to think, how could I run a business that doesn't run me? I'm not working every night, every weekend, and I really was. And so I started to change my hours. But I will say, I've been in business 13 years, and it took many years for me to break out of that habit. I'd get good at it, and then I'd slide back in, and then I had to come back. Today, we work a 4-day work week. I have a team of 20 full-time employees all around the U.S. We work Monday through Thursday, take Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off.
Nice.
And it's important that I do that because as I've gotten older, I value and I see the time with family as being just as important. When I was younger and in the business, it was harder for me to see, but I knew it was important. So I really struggled with it, but I had to change what I had to get clear about what my priority was. Hobie and Cade, my son, are my priority. And then I had to act accordingly. And that part was hard.
Yeah, that is hard. You're literally, I'm hearing myself in you. That was part of the reason why, I was gone in my brick and mortar business at the time, and I'd be gone 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And we had at the time a 4-year-old and 2 newborn twins. And so she was there by herself. And so I was like, man, in hindsight, I'm like, I wasn't present, right? And there was a time when it all took place when we kind of got back together. That was a heavy conversation. And it's odd, and maybe you can attest to this, maybe not, is there's a point in time where like I would be with my kids, but not with my kids. But then when I started being with the kids, I have a draw. I call it season of dad right now. Like I want to be home. Like I want to get done with this podcast and go hang with my son. Just got back from orientation from college and I miss him, right? That's a pull I never used to have. And did you have an experience of that to where now like it's almost kind of as innate to turn it off as it was to keep it on?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. So Cade's my stepson. Quick little random story. When I worked at Tony Robbins, there was this woman that worked in HR and she had a picture of her husband on her corkboard. And I'd go up and talk to her all the time. And I always used to say, your husband is so hot. And she would just laugh. Well, fast forward a year later, and she said, my husband and I are getting a divorce, and you are perfect for him. I want to set you up with my ex-husband.
Very
and so
interesting story.
Very good girlfriend set me up with her ex-husband. I married him. And so Cade is my stepson. He's 20 now, also in college. But I remember a very specific time with Cade where I took him to a baseball game. It was just the two of us. He was practicing. So I thought, I've got my computer typing away all through practice. Afterwards, I pick him up and we're going to the car and I'm like, you did so good. And he said, how do you know? You were on your computer the whole time. And he was little. And I thought, oh my gosh. So that was a moment that I realized he is watching everything I do.
And
so, that was it right there. I never would do that ever again. And so now, yes, when Cade came to stay with us in Tennessee for 3 weeks and I couldn't stop hugging him. I couldn't stop touching him because I realized I did lose many years with Cade because of my job and being obsessed with it. So luckily, I don't think he thinks that, but I know it was true.
Yeah.
Devastating.
It is, right? I've had moments where my kids also some of the same, like, I don't know if it's the exact same verbiage, but language where like I would miss games and it's like, well, you weren't even there, Dad. You know, it's like, oh,
Ah,
and because I was gone doing a speech, there was one moment where I had committed to go into Philippines to do like teach football to the Philippines, like the communities there. And so I went and taught and came back and I'd missed my son's championship football game because of it. That's how bad it was. And I'm a football player.
yeah.
And I remember like the look, he's like, we won and you weren't there to celebrate with me. It's like,
Oh, I
damn,
mean,
you know?
hit you in the gut.
Yeah, it was bad.
It's really, really tough. And I think the fact that we know that and we never want to go back there, I think that's powerful as well.
I agree. And so the big thing is freedom, right? But you can also mess up your life with freedom to do so, right? So let's kick a little
Yes.
down the pathway. You now have freedom, right? You now have control.
Yeah.
You have a journey. How do you teach other people? Like, how do you, obviously it's still by creating a business and the core structure, but like in your own words, if somebody comes to you and goes, hey, Amy, I'm ready. Like, let's rock and roll and let's get, what does that journey really look like for them?
So the first thing that I always talk to my students about is, again, getting clear on why you want it. Because on the days that your worries are going to knock you to the ground, because as an entrepreneur, it is scary. You're
Yeah.
going to be knocked to the ground with your worries, and your why has got to pick you up and push you back out. And so we do start there, just like I started. But from there, also, I tell my students that the worst day of being an entrepreneur, and I can tell you 5 or 6 worst days that I've had, like really knock me down days as being an entrepreneur. The worst day of being an entrepreneur is still better than the best day of being an employee somewhere. And I let them know that early on. So Tony always says 80% of being an entrepreneur is what you're thinking and feeling. It's your
True.
mindset. 20% is mechanics. I
Yeah.
teach the mechanics. I could teach you webinar skills all day long, but if you do not have your head in the right place and have podcasts like this to inspire you, you will always struggle. So that's another thing that I say, listen, get a coach, get a therapist, inspire yourself, fuel your mind every single day because this journey is tough and you've
Yeah.
got to be mentally strong. And it's because I have really struggled through without knowing how to manage my mindset in the beginning, I struggled. So that's where we start when they want to start an online business.
Yeah, you have to start there. I mean, I'm telling you, by myself, I look back and it's funny. I had somebody on that talked about, in fact, that moment in the beginning, you're talking about the brain. Actually, in the morning, when we start to stew on the negative stuff, our brain releases cortisol and the brain actually gets addicted to that kind of release of a chemical. So it becomes chemically addicted to worrying. It's a weird thing,
Whoa.
right? I was like, I didn't even know this. And so I was like, it
Okay,
makes so
I
much
need to
more
listen to
sense.
that episode because I
I'll
am
have
a
to pull it out.
natural worrier. Like that
Yeah.
just, unfortunately, I can worry about everything. So
Yeah.
I
It's also a
work
mom
on
thing
it,
too, probably.
but what's that?
Also probably a mom thing. My wife's like that too.
Totally.
I don't know where I don't have it.
Anything can happen.
Yeah, I have it in things. I'm like, am I going to mess up this thing? Am I going to mess up the interview with Amy today? Like that, and I go, oh, so I have a morning routine. My son and I do. And we get up and I take action, and that actually it changes, right? I have a different dopamine dump and serotonin levels in, so I have a different addiction to something else. When I feel that kick, I'm like, ah. So somebody has that. You're telling them, hey, you got to get in your mind right. What's the next step they should do? Because I know a lot of people, they'll go out and say, I'm going to start making a course randomly, or I'm going to start putting on
Right.
social media. What do people do wrong in the beginning? I guess that maybe we should go back and adjust.
So I think there's a little bit of desperation that comes when you want to start a business. I had it absolutely where you're like, I got to be known for something. I got to put myself on the map. I got to put this offer out there, where what they're skipping, and the mistake that I often see is that we've got to first figure out who your audience is and start connecting with them. And
Yeah.
so the way you connect with your audience is creating content. So all of my students start with a platform where they're going to deliver content every single week, rain or shine. So that means a podcast, a blog, a video show, or some kind of live Q&A or something like that they do
Yeah.
every single week. And I tell them you're doing it for 2 reasons. Number one, you put out new content like a podcast episode every week and new people can find you, so you're growing your audience.
True.
The second thing is the people who have already found you, maybe the 100 people on your email list that you think it's just 100, it doesn't even matter. No, these are living, breathing souls that said they want to hear from you.
Yeah.
You putting out weekly content, now you're nurturing that relationship. And so when you nurture a relationship and you're ready to sell, they're ready to buy. And so it's the content. You've got to start creating content. And most people, when I say that, the first thing they think of is, what will people think of me?
True,
So when
very
I
true.
first worked at Tony Robbins, I remember the first week out, I started making videos on YouTube. And which is funny because I hated videos right from the get-go. So I can't even believe that's what I did, but I did.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't post them. I made them and I wouldn't post them. And I
Oh,
was telling
really?
Hobie, like, I've got like 10 videos I haven't posted yet. And he's like,
Yeah.
why? And I said, I'm scared what my old coworkers are going to think. Like, she doesn't know that stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
scared what Tony's going to think and what he's going to say about me. And he says, babe, I love you so much, but I need to give you a little tough love. Tony Robbins is not thinking about you right now. He's got his whole life and he's got his thing going on. He is not worried if you're posting videos on YouTube about marketing. So it was humbling and embarrassing, but he's right. The people that we think are thinking about us are thinking about themselves and their own mission. They're not thinking about us.
True, true, very true. I mean, I think I at one point did a video a day for it was 1,333 straight days. It was difficult.
Whoa, what
Yeah.
in the world? What
Yeah.
kind of challenge is that?
Right. I didn't start that. I just started doing it. I just like, I can't stop. And I stopped for a reason later on. But it was one of those things, same thing. Like you put it out and it's like, oh, my wife and I had people tell me like, hey, what are you doing posting these videos? Who are you to do this? And then over time,
Yes.
and I also had a thought, and maybe this makes sense, but I found that later on I was going to want to sell something that they would actually, trust me to have, the ability to serve. But I found that if I said, hey, I'm going to do a podcast a week or I'm going to do a video a week, when I would notice other people say they're going to do it and they didn't do it, I lost trust in them. I'm going to post it every week and then I didn't get it that week or the next week, but it came with other week. I'm like, can I trust that you're going to deliver on this product you're selling me if you miss that? So it is partly like the content to connect, but it's also to build trust in ways you wouldn't believe would connect, I think.
Oh, I love that you said that. Yes, when you post every single week, same time, same place, people come to expect it. And that's how relationships are built. And so the minute you don't do it, you're right. They're like, oh, she must not be into this anymore, or it's not as important to her anymore. And so they go off and they go do their thing with somebody else. And I'm competitive probably to a fault. And I think, well, if I'm not going to show up, my competitors would love to show up in my spot. So that was another thing that kept me going. If I don't do it, someone else is going to do it.
I like it. What's funny is I'm a competitor too. I didn't think about that. That's true though. Like it's gonna get my spot, better take my spot back. Yeah, that's crazy. So now they're creating content and people are putting things out. They're doing the icky work of fighting through the demons they have inside and thoughts and conversations. What's next, right? Because that's not what pays bills. That's not what creates freedom. Just making videos. Right? There's more to it. What are some of the next steps people should take?
So the next thing is you got to start growing your email list. So let's talk about this because sometimes when people hear me say this, they're like, it's so hard. It takes so long. The email list is one of the most important assets in your entire business. So one thing that we know for sure is that social media is powerful. It's also very fickle. That algorithm can change tomorrow and boom, the way you've been marketing, not the same. People seeing all those reels, they're not seeing them anymore. This happens all the time. So studies have shown that email marketing converts 4 times better than any social media post if you do it right. The day that last year, do you remember when Facebook and Instagram went down on the same day? Do you remember that day?
Weird.
It was a very big deal. Like, is anyone out there? Is the world still going on? Like, it felt so bizarre. That morning, I just so happened to coincidentally send one email for a product I've had for years, just to remind my email list, I've got this product. If you want to buy it, here's how you do it. So we made $7,000 in a few hours that morning when social media was absolutely down. That to me is powerful because you don't own social media. You're building a business on rented land if you think you do. However, you own that email list. And at any time, if you nurture that, you can make money with your email list. My dad, I mentioned, I think earlier, he's like blue collar to the bone. He's a firefighter and he doesn't understand my business. 13 years in, still doesn't. And
Nobody in my life does either.
Right? Our parents just don't get it. So he would call in the beginning and say like, are you sure you want to leave your job? Like Tony Robbins is a big deal. Don't do it. And I'd say, Dad, I'm going to do it. So when I did it, he'd get really worried. And I said, Dad, as long as I'm growing my email list every single day, I will always have a way to make money. You don't have to worry about your daughter. She's going to be fine. So to this day, he'll call and he'll say, how's that email list? Like that's the only thing he knows. But it's true. Your email list will make you money, but you've got to start growing it. And most people don't start.
Yeah, that's true. Because I think that I think me in the beginning was like, oh, I got to make more content, have more ideas. And what if it's what if they opt out? And I think partially, be honest, in the beginning when someone would opt out, I took a hit in the heart.
Oh,
I'm like,
why don't you love me? Yes, exactly.
Yeah. It's a journey, man.
Now I tell my students, don't even look. We're not even looking. They're not for you. You're not for them.
Yeah.
We're moving on.
That's okay. Yeah, that's the truth, man. Honestly, I think sometimes people come in and it's like you have to be able to share those things and go deep on those. And one thing I also think, going back to what you said before, is I shared my heart. I found that if someone doesn't know me enough to dislike me, they'll never know me enough to love me.
Ooh, say that one more time.
Yeah, if someone doesn't know me enough to dislike me, then no one will know me enough to love me.
That is powerful stuff.
So sharing those things, put in emails, that's big. How does somebody, what's a simple way? Because the email is one of those things, there's so many ways you can create a quiz, you can do an opt-in, a PDF, a webinar. What's a quick way somebody can start building a list and like a daily action type thing that's easy for them?
Okay, let's break it down. First thing, you need an email service provider. My favorite is ConvertKit, and you can start for free, so it's a great one. But there's tons of email service providers out there. You got to sign up for one. Number two, you've got to create some kind of freebie. We call it a lead magnet, but whatever you want to create, you just got to create something. And the way you decide what to create is you meet your audience where they're at today, not where they want to be, not where you think they should be. Right now, what are they struggling with today? Because you want to get them a quick win. So they're like, I want that. And they're going to give up a hot commodity, their name and email to get it. But we're going to start out simple. A cheat sheet, a checklist, some kind of PDF, a quick guide. We're not talking about a 50-page ebook. No one's going to read it. Give them a quick win. It could also be a 10-minute audio. Let's say you're in the wellness space, a 10-minute meditation or something like that. A quick tip on a video that they would find really valuable. But a quiz, a challenge, a webinar, way too advanced for your first lead magnet. So let's keep it really simple. You create it, you load it up in your email service provider, and you start talking about it everywhere. On social media, you're posting about it in your post, you're linking to it in your bio. Every time you get interviewed somewhere, if they allow you to mention it, you mention it. But that's how you start. You create a lead magnet.
I like it. You know what's crazy is I'm thinking that in my head, there's a lot, right? We're already going through, like, you got to go and post videos and this stuff. And I'm going to be honest, man, some people, their mind craps out at a certain point. And I always think about this because I want to serve people as best we can. And there's something that I grab genuinely for these moments. So I can talk to you and do my videos called Magic Mind. And I like to drop this in because people will take this information and go, man, it's a lot, Ant. Like, Amy's talking about a lot. I go, no, but it's okay. At one point in time, you had to learn how to work your VCR back in the day and then your cell phone. Like, you'll be all right. But a way to pick the mind up is something called Magic Mind. My brain, when it gets foggy from videos, I talk about all the time. It's kind of a shameless plug, I'm going to be honest, man, because I believe in the product. I bought it randomly off of I saw like an ad or something. I was like, I'm going to grab this stuff. And I've been using it for quite literally about 6 to 8 months now. I think it's like 7 in between there. And at one point in time, like, I found I had more energy. I could do more videos. I could be focused. I could take it every day so I can focus with you. And so you guys are listening going, but my brain's fogged already. Go ahead and head to magicmind.co and use the code AWShift20, AWW Shift 20 to get a discount because after a certain point in time, I reached out. I said, hey, I'm telling people about this in my stories. Can we connect and find a way to make it worthwhile for both of us to do this? And so they did, and it's been awesome to be able to give it and share it with so many people. So it's kind of like a sidebar, but I can feel like if your brain's getting foggy, you need some more productivity, go grab Magic Mind, magicmind.co, Shift20, it'll be your code. But Amy, we've got this down. We got the email providers dialed in. Now we're clear there. But again, that's not the business. There's still, I don't want to give all the secrets. So I want to give all the goods. I want people to come find you later to get more of it. But if someone goes, I listen to the podcast, okay, Amy, do content every week. Okay, get an email thing up. When do I ask for someone to buy? How do I get over the feeling of maybe I'm an imposter and I don't know if I can ask for someone to pay me money? Like, what does that little gap look like?
Okay, so I have a friend, Donald Miller, and he recently posted on social something that I thought was so valuable. He said, if you don't think that your ideas are worthy enough to put out there, there's somebody else that thinks their idea is really amazing and they will absolutely put it out there and you might just end up working for them. And when I heard that, I was like, oh gosh, no. So because of my competitive spirit, that kind of gets me going because I think if I'm not going to be willing to put my ideas out there and sell them, say they're so good that they're worth paying for, somebody else will gladly swoop in and do that instead. Yeah. So when you start growing your email list, the absolutely next thing you can do is put together an offer. And it could be a simple offer. I'm going to coach 5 people one-on-one for 3 months, first come, first serve. I'm going to do group coaching. I'm going to put together a mini digital course or a membership or a mastermind, whatever it might be. putting together your first offer is a really important step because it puts you on the map as their go-to source. And you've been offering value for 3 months, 6 months, however long. So you've really earned the right to say, okay, here's the next step. And there's no reason why everything you should do is for free. We are not growing hobbies over here. This is our livelihood. True. So you really have to step into that and say, of course I deserve to get paid for this. So you start to think, how can I add value? How can I take people to the next level? How can I get a transformation for them? And you put together your offer and keep it as simple as you can. Because believe me, you're going to want to change it down the road.
Yeah, everybody does, right? Because you do it. Right. And like, I remember when I first met, I was like, here's the solution. You put it out. People go, I have a question on this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And I go, I got to do this again, you know?
Ooh, got to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah. And I think that was one of the things that for a lot of people, like I know for me in the beginning, and I work with some people in the same realm, but it's more of like, well, what if I put out, then, you know, they don't like it. They want their money back. And it's all part of the journey. Like you're not going to get there without putting something out. So don't have that stop you. I tell people, don't rob the world of the gift of you. Like there's this sense of uniqueness and different. You can't rob the world because of your fears, because that 1 or 2 people that may ask for a refund, if you go off of them, you're going to block the 500 people, that's probably the ratio, that would love this thing. And it changes their life and puts it all out. And it is a journey. How do you think someone should first think about creating that course? Like, should it be something that they, you know, research and create? Should it be something that they pull from their life? Because it's a lot of ways to create a course and content and extract from some place. Where do you recommend is a good place to begin?
Well, I love talking about digital courses. And the reason why is I believe everybody has a digital course in them. And I believe digital courses give you freedom because you can create one digital course, one asset, put your heart and soul into making something great, but then you get to launch it over and over and over again. It's not like a one or done kind of thing. And one of the lessons I learned from Tony is that the entrepreneurs who do not constantly reinvent the wheel, start from scratch, are the ones that have exponential growth. And so a digital course means you create it once and you launch it over and over again. You're not constantly starting from scratch, which slows you down. And so because I believe everyone has a digital course in them, let me break it down. All you need is a 10% edge. And what I mean by that is you need to have gotten results for yourself or for somebody else, a family member, a friend, a coworker, or a customer or client that you work with. You've gotten results for somebody else or yourself, and you're willing to put together the roadmap and teach it in a course. Here's what I did first. Here's what I did next. You don't need more certification. You don't need more time. You don't need more education. Everybody has gotten results in their lives. The challenge is 2 things stop them. Number 1, they think, well, it's already been done before. I'm looking around and I want to teach people how to make cupcakes, and there's 10 courses out there like that. That means that it's working. If there's other courses on the topic you want to teach, consider yourself validated because they're making money from it. The other thing is people will think, well, no one wants to learn how I did that. They think like just because it's easy to them, it should be easy to everybody else. And that is absolutely not the case. So don't take for granted what you know, because people will pay for that.
Yeah, they will. I call it pinky finger power. It's going to sound weird, but I did American Ninja Warrior at one point, and I'm a bigger guy. I'm like 6'1", 230, and I'm not meant to hang on things from my hands, right? This is for rock climbers. I have a big body. And so I was like, hey, how should I prep? The guy's like, well, you got to train your grip strength. And I go, well, what should I do this? So you got to focus on one finger more specifically than the other ones. And I said, what finger is that? And I thought it was the index. He go, no, it's your pinky. And I go, how? He goes, if you look up, and it's true, if you cut off your pinky, you lose 51% of your grip strength.
Oh my gosh, who knew?
I didn't know it. I was like, oh, crazy. I got to, But what I found was when I applied to this world, I'm like, oh, well, that means what I believe is the most insignificant part of me is actually my strength.
Ooh, that was a good connection there. That's good stuff. Yes.
So I tell people, you have a pinky finger power that's insignificant to you. But if you message someone, go, hey, if you could extract one thing from my life to plug into yours to improve it, what would that be? And people fire back stuff. And that's where I feel you can probably lean into something that's more organic to be able to create something around.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a fun one. But I mean, it still sounds scary for people, right? Because there's that area where people kind of lean in and do some stuff. And I also know people have like fears of success. They won't talk about it, but there's this, but if I do that, then I have more clients and I'm more responsible and things go wrong and I can get knocked down. Like, what do you tell the person who has this in their brain? They go, I got this, I can do it. But what if it actually does all work out? Can I handle that?
Ooh, I love this. That absolutely happened to me in like the weirdest way. When I finally had success with my digital courses, which was a few years in, I had some or some misses along the way. When I finally started to see success, I made $30,000 in like 7 days. And that, I felt like I was the richest person in the world. I thought, I couldn't believe it. So at $30,000, and instantly I celebrated for like 1 minute. And then I thought, something bad's going to happen. Something good just happened. So something bad's going to happen. And later on, when I realized, I just felt like I didn't deserve it. And am I deserving of all of this success and these people that gave me their hard-earned money for what I created? And I got really crazy in my head about it. And also, it was like, oh my gosh, what does this mean now? Like, I'm successful. What do I do next? And how do I keep this going? So I absolutely experienced that. And what I will say is, number one, we do need to do some work. Again, always comes back to the mindset around knowing that we are worthy of this success, that we do deserve it. No matter what's happened in our past, no matter how many times we failed or the people that told us we can't do it, none of that matters. In this moment, I am absolutely worthy for what's to come. So that was one thing. The other thing is, you just prove to yourself you've had success. This can be done. You cannot allow yourself to think that it's a fluke. You put funnels together. You did your webinar. You sent out the emails. You did all the things. And the beautiful thing about creating a business is when you see success, you can replicate it. And so now you can do that again. So it's just staying in the game and keep moving forward. No matter how hard it might feel in terms of how scared you are, you have to remember you just proved yourself. Let's do it again.
Do it again and again. I call it because I'm an identity guy. I'm real big on like, who are you, right? And I think when they identify with the outcome, if the outcome isn't great, they think they're less than. But if you identify with the effort, then just keep giving the effort. It's like, it didn't burn out, but I still gave effort, did the best I could. And that allows you to keep stepping in. You just step in.
That reminds me, have you ever read the book, The Gap and the Gain?
I've never heard of that book.
Okay. I think you're going to love it. I keep talking about this. I probably need to stop because I'm a little bit obsessed. It's from Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy. And Dan Sullivan is like an OG online marketer. He's like incredible. And this book is not about online marketing, though. It's about the fact, what you just said, the effort. He talks about measuring backwards. So let's say I have a goal to make $1 million with my next launch, and I make 800K. I have been very notorious for saying, I didn't hit my goal. I'm $200,000 off. What am I going to do to fix this? What do we do next time? And okay, team, let's come together. That's all my focus, the 200K. The gain, that's living in the gap. The gain is, I just made $800,000. I started with zero 10 days ago, made $800,000. Let's think, how did I do it? What did I do? How did I show up? Because next time, if I do more of that, I can make more. But living in the gap only tears you down, and you will always feel like you don't measure up. So when I learned that lesson, I thought, measure backwards. Where did you start? It changes your entire perspective.
Yeah, it's big. It's almost common sense, you'd think, but I think as humans, we naturally do only pay attention to the stuff we didn't do. Like, it's weird.
Yes.
We never just go like, you're good, you're great. And I don't know if we didn't get it as kids or society doesn't do it, but you're right, man. There's actually a whole Dove study around that. You ever heard the Dove study where like the women came in with the pictures?
No.
Oh, it's maybe one to look up, but it's one where it highlights that we focus on negativity. That two women come into a sketch artist, and one woman would describe herself, the other describes her friend. So they're describing one person, two different perspectives. They leave, they do it a couple times, they come back to a T every time. When the person was asked to describe themselves, it was all the blemishes and the black spots and the marks. The person describing their friend was always beautiful. And it was this big thing of like, we focus so much on our negativity. We don't see all the gain, the beauty that somebody else sees in us. And so I think that leans to the same perspective. That's big. Because if you do focus on that, then you go, I got this. I got something in me. I can build and create and do some cool things. Man, so here's the thing. You broke down a couple pieces, right? It's the way I look at it, it's like if somebody says, how do you get in shape? It's like, oh, go to the gym. But they don't tell you like the reps, the sets, how to do the technique of the squat, right? So you're giving, hey, here's how you build a business, but you're not running down the technique. So where can people go to work with you in some capacity of finding out what it looks like to have somebody almost hold their hand to guide through this?
Oh, I so appreciate you asking. So I have a podcast called Online Marketing Made Easy, and that's where I break it down step by step, different strategies you can do to grow your business, from list building to webinars to digital courses and everything in between. So if you're looking for more step by step, let me break it down for you. Online Marketing Made Easy.
Beautiful. All right. Final question. Ready?
Yes.
Here it is. What
I'm
promise?
nervous.
Oh, don't be nervous. It's not a crazy one. Somebody
Okay.
asked me this question one time, and it was a really good one. They asked me, I was like at a Starbucks, and I started contemplating my life. I was like, oh, man. But it's a good question. So here it is. What promise did God make to the world when he created you?
Oh, beautiful question. The promise that God made to the world when he created me was that she will absolutely have compassion for you no matter what.
It's good.
I
Solid,
do
consistent.
believe I gotta lead with compassion. I have this way of thinking that you never know what someone's walking. You've never been in their shoes. You never know what they're going through. And so I'm quick to say like, why did he do that? Or why is she saying that? And I think, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm just gonna love this person and give them compassion. And it's always served me well. So that's what I
That's
think
good.
I offer.
I think it's big, man. I think I found that all the people that have great success, it's not an accident. You don't stumble and fall into a 14-year successful business, right? And you can't be at that level. I believe businesses live and die in the dark. The conversations had in private. If you don't have compassion, those dark conversations will let people know, and then your business doesn't grow. So
Absolutely.
it's apparent that you have compassion in what you do. So thank you for having your ability to come and share your time with us. Thank you very much. Is there anything you want to kind of conclude with, share with the people as we sign off?
No, I just thank you so much for having me. And I love the conversations that are deeper than just the funnels and the webinars and all of that stuff. I think it's the most important conversation. So
I agree.
thanks for inviting me here.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I appreciate you sharing those things. I know there's a duality to it, right? Because I do know people are going to listen and go, oh, I got business information. But there's no way if you listen to this, you didn't get life information too. So thanks for sharing all that. Thank you guys for tuning in also. You could have been anywhere doing anything with your time, but you chose to come hang with us. So I appreciate that. If you did find something of value, do me a favor, rate, review, and more importantly, share with somebody. There might be someone in your life that needs to hear these words and you can't reach them, but Amy's words can plant that seed that could blossom into something amazing. So give that gift. Outside of that, as always, make the most of your off shift moments so you can make shift happen. It's Anthony Trucks and Amy Porterfield signing off. Hey, thank you for tuning into the Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love if you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.